Top 10 Countdown.
Bobby, what we doing this time?
We're doing nicknames. You got a nickname?
Nickname? Hey, AB. That's the only nickname I got.
AB.
AB. Or you know what it is? Or it's called the Black Python.
Sorry.
Legends pulled an old trick out of his helmet. The Greek, Chris Karamessinis, went for a rare, extremely dangerous fire burnout.
Chris Karamessinis, baby. Golden Greek, little fire burnout going on there, shirtless in the pits. The envy of women everywhere, apparently.
I've seen so many pictures of guys with jorts, no shirt. There's weekends like Bristol and Norwalk. Man, I wish we could bring back those days out there working with no shirt.
I know one thing, I wouldn't cross the creek.
No, and I know he can definitely likes to drink whiskey.
Pork chop, hold my drink. I have to make a run.
The Greek reminds me of one of them all-you-can-eat Greek diners. You never know what you're going to get, but when you get there, you're going to get a lot of it, and that's what the Greek brings to the table.
Well, Greek, that was a great race. Tell us how it felt to go out there and try. You taught this youngster how to do it.
Well, I thought I'd give you a chance, but I didn't realize I red light on you.
Heck yeah, when I saw you go down the track, you were way out front and you was kicking my tail. I was trying to catch you, but I couldn't get you.
Well, next time try it a little harder.
The thing about it is, the Greek never ages, and I think that's why that name sticks to the Greek, because the man was driving a top fuel. The man's driving a top fuel car in his upper 80s, and he looked like he was 60, because he was like good and plenty. He served many and many.
Back in Chicago one year, when I first started going with NHRA, I asked him how he was still racing. Everybody else had quit, and he said that they spent all their money on women and drugs.
And there was a guy up there that was the self-proclaimed king of the Northwest by the name of Jerry Ruth. And a newspaper writer up there at that time, we had beaten Ruth several times, and so a newspaper writer comes out with a report one day, what beats the king but an ace, and that's where it came from, and it sort of stuck from there.
The guy's nickname, is it his nickname that's cooler, or is it his whole kind of persona and presentation? Always with the perfect hair, and of course always with the perfect right and or left hook, and or right cross, and or right overhand, and then of course the white guy fro. The early 80s white guy fro. This is when McCullough came back into the sport. Not only the white guy fro, but also again, kind of it was a Karamessinis tribute mustache he was rocking at this period in history.
And look at the stash. Look at the stash. Look at that stash. Woo! I tell you what, he showed Magnum PI how to wear that thing.
The ace?
Yeah. Well, we'll comment, but it's going to be very nice because we love the ace. He's a very nice guy who we don't want any beef with at all. Because what I've seen, he looks undefeated and scuffing to me.
Yeah, he definitely, I mean, when you have a shirt that made up that says don't be the victim, you know that, you know, I mean, he definitely took Gord Mineo out. One time he punched Sid Waterman in an elevator.
He was a rich woman's lover and a poor woman's dream. That's Ed the Ace, baby.
The TV Tommy moniker is due to his prolific film and television acting career. It started when he was 7 and continued through his 20s, during which he was featured in hundreds of productions. Tommy and his cars were stars in teenage exploitation movies.
TV Tommy Ivo. Talk about a guy who set a course, not only for himself. Tommy Ivo set like the course of the sport and what it was eventually going to be. He was ahead of the curve in a million different ways. The way he presented himself, the way his hot rods ran, from his Buick powered T-Bucket back in the day to the dragsters, everything was always beautiful, and he understood that the cars were part of the show. The presentation of himself and those cars were a part of the show.
I was the first to go on the road. In fact, they've kind of called me the first professional.
And you know what? It's movie star time. It's movie star time. It's TV.
What was he, a Mouseketeer, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm almost positive he was.
And then that incredible accident. Tommy Ivo claims that this is the greatest ride he ever took. And he said his only regret about this crash is that he closed his eyes when it was happening. he missed the big part of the show.
No, I wouldn't have my eyes open to enjoy that either.
The fact that he lived through this was amazing. And this was one of the most beautiful dragsters ever built at the time.
That's what made TV Tommy Ivo so special, because he was the first OG's original. He played the part, he could speak, he had the look, but he also didn't have a stunt double. He did all the stunts himself, as you can see by this tape.
Always remember, if you ain't first, you're last.
Herb McCandless, right here in the Deer Lane in the Soxon Martin entry, against Bob Yowo.
Oh, Mr. 4-Speed. Herb McCandless is an incredible guy. He is ageless. He is still building hot rods and awesome cars today. And, you know, people say Ronnie Sox was Mr. 4-Speed. I gotta go with McCandless on this one. And this win at the U.S. Nationals was a seminal moment in his career. He won a handful of national events, but what he did over the course of his time was really to push the evolution of pro stock forward.
Good for you, huh?
Yes, in the pro stock, I'm really happy. I just don't know what to say.
That same smile he has on his face at the top end of the racetrack talking to Keith Jackson in Indy is the same smile you will see at car shows today, at drag races, and it is one of the highlights of my career every year to see him at the U.S. Nationals.
They're set. Tony Schumacher wins the race, runs 4:42, sets the national record. And Tony Schumacher completes one of the most astounding comebacks in drag racing history.
Oh, the Sarge. No comment.
Has he ever been in the military?
Side of your screen, you see Sean Langdon have trouble early, but not the Sarge. He goes to the head of the class, both ends of the track record.
I mean, it is an iconic nickname that will stick with Tony Schumacher, even if he's talked today about maybe trying to move away from it. But the reality is, when you win more national events than anybody, you perfect the run. When you have moments like this, you don't escape that nickname. It is welded to you like a tattoo, whether you like it or not. And I do think Tony likes it.
No one has a nickname anymore. The Sarge, he definitely played that role well once they got that Army sponsorship. Because I remember when he had the Exide deal, he had like parted hair, it's kind of long. Army deal comes along, crew cut.
When they call you by the Sarge and not Tony Schumacher, you know you got a good nickname.
And red light for Conley, it pays off for the Professor.
Warren Johnson got your first win at this racetrack. The Professor, did you take that young man to school? Did you plan on doing that?
Well, it took so long I had to sip a Powerade first. Well, I don't know if I took him to school, but I taught that punk a lesson.
Oh, taught that punk a lesson.
Now, hold up. Now, this is one that I have to go against the grain. He should be in the top 10. I think WJ, the Professor, he was the Professor. He's even got the look. He's even got the white hair. And the thing, he's even got the stern look on his face.
What is the most misunderstood thing about you?
I have no idea. If somebody wants to know something, they just ask me a question. But if you're afraid of the answer, don't ask the question.
WJ, one of the most cerebral racers of all time, the Professor. This is a guy, people loved him or hated him. And I think the coolest thing about WJ is the fact that he is a guy that did not care if you liked him or hated him. He's someone who enjoys the fact that he is more respected than he is loved in many ways.
The grumpy Professor.
Grumpy as hell, but a really smart guy.
Buster Couch has pulled Warren Johnson and Scott Jeffrey on back off the starting line, told him to shut the engines off, and is going to have a word with both drivers. Now, this is not the first time this has happened. We have seen it before, and the reasons are primarily psychological.
Why did everybody try to burn down WJ?
Well, he was not the best lever, but he always had the horsepower. And we saw WJ win so many races in the last 50 feet. because the car was just pulling so much harder than everybody else. The only hope you might have had for the era that he was most dominating in the 90s was to get out on him and do something at the starting line. Did it work that often? No, but everybody tried it. It's like trying stuff against Eric Anders today. It's probably not going to work, but you're probably going to get your ass kicked anyway, so why not try it?
It's Warren Johnson going in first.
They leave the starting line. The video here is awesome because when they were getting ready to stage, the place is going ballistic. He gets down there, wins by a razor-thin margin. Greg Anderson rocking not quite the Flock of Seagulls haircut, but it was getting there by that point in his young life as a crew chief with WJ. Look at him, he's chewing on this gum. I don't know if he's chewing on gum or his tongue, but he is chewing on something in a way that is just pure aggravation. Scott wants to play those games. He can play those games all he wants. I don't have to stage first. I can stage whatever I want. No, I don't have to stage. I don't have to stage. I can stage whatever I want.
They always try to hold WJ out on the starting line because they thought they were going to take the professor to school. But you can't take the professor to school, and they all knew it. They try to use every trick in the book, but you know what WJ said? Don't worry, son, I can wait all day. Class is still in session.
Pro Stockers at the Ontario Motor Speedway. On my right from Indiana, Bob Glidden. On my left is Dyno Don Nicholson.
Ken Squire, Dyno Don Nicholson, and Bob Glidden. It's like the Holy Trinity right there.
Don Nicholson from Orange, California, and Atlanta, Georgia.
The oldest active pro driver, Nicholson captured the Gator Nationals and the Spring Nationals already this year and leads the World Championship points chase.
Dyno Don, incredible guy. Funny cars back in the day, the AFX cars, then the flip-top cars. And how did he get the nickname Dyno Don? He was a dyno tuner at a car dealership. That's what he did. He would work back in the great golden era of American performance. People would bring their cars in. He would do dyno tuning on them.
On the start, Iaconio out in front. But coming up around is Nicholson. And watch this head-to-head battle that saw Nicholson win.
And he was somebody that had... A lot of people don't understand how far down the budgetary scale he was from everybody else, even in this era. He ran a lot of older stuff, but he ran it to perfection.
What you're looking at is something that's going to stand drag racing right on its ear. I'm not talking about some bimbo hanging all over a car. I'm talking about putting a beautiful woman right there in the driver's seat. Can't you just hear Cha-Cha saying, corral your gal with Lariat? She's beautiful. Look at her eat those press people up. I love it. Cha-Cha! Call her Cha-Cha!
Who is this person in a spaceman-like suit, deeply involved in the 21st running of the National Drag Racing Championships? It is, in fact, a lady, Shirley Cha-Cha Muldowney.
Number 6. Are you trying to get me punched in the face, Bobby? Is that what this is? Shirley Cha-Cha Muldowney. The reason I asked that is because Shirley has long since renounced this nickname. She does not like it. I would, even to this day, challenge anybody with half a brain to call her that to her face. It will not end well.
Cha-Cha is here with us in Montreal for the Grand National Auto Race, and also to prepare for us her favorite dish. And that dish is, Cha-Cha?
Excuse me, it's Shirley. It's just Shirley Muldowney.
That's right, Cha-Cha.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. What you got against women's nicknames? How is Shirley number 6? Shirley is definitely a top 3. Cha-Cha, baby.
And here is Shirley Cha-Cha Muldowney, the only woman licensed to drive a top fuel dragster.
They think it's a male sport. It's not a male sport. It's just that, you know, I'm a race car driver. I just happen to be a woman, that's all. Doesn't make any difference.
We talk about WJ, we talk about the will to win and what victory means and how hardcore somebody is. They don't come any more hardcore than Shirley Muldowney.
And it used to be a thing with me, you know, I just love to get to the boys. I just love the tantrums they throw, and they kick their cars and beat their cars with their helmets, and it's great. I like it.
They used to call her Cha-Cha. You know why? Because she had some spunk. She had the spice. She had the fire in her because she wasn't no ordinary woman. She was a superwoman. That you could light her on fire, you could flip her upside down, she can hit walls, and she came back like no other. That's why she's AKA Cha-Cha.
And again, it's one of those names. Sometimes you like the nickname, sometimes you don't. It got put upon her, and for a time period in her career, she embraced it, and then it became something that she didn't really enjoy. But it's still, for an era of drag racing fans, she will be Cha-Cha.
What's quicker than a snake? A mongoose. Tom the Mongoose McEwen is nimble enough to nip arch rival Prudhomme.
Tom the Mongoose McEwen.
You guys got any Hot Wheel cars?
Yeah.
Huh? How many?
I got 50 of them.
You got the mongoose and snake?
Yeah.
How come you got the snake? Which one's the fastest?
Snake.
Hey, that's what I wanted to hear. Why do you make up stuff like that? You hear that, didn't you? You paid those kids to say that.
And these two guys, you know, obviously Snake and the Mongoose, it's a movie's been made about it. It is, in terms of a back and forth and a tandem, a rivalry, which was a real rivalry. I think people maybe lose some of that, but when we talk about the ways these two guys approach drag racing, Don Prudhomme would have probably preferred at times in his career to race at an empty drag strip with no people and just competed. That's how hardcore he was. For McEwen, the show was part of it. The presentation was part of it. The interaction was part of it. The fun was part of it.
Donald, this is what it's all about. This is where the mongoose and the snake, just like in the jungles, you're going to get it.
Yeah, Tom, I'll tell you what, it's exactly like old times.
Just like old times on the starting line at National Trail in the Spring Nationals. Trouble for Tom McEwen. He falls behind, and it's Don the Snake Prudhomme streaking to his second straight championship in a row at the Spring Nationals.
Just look at the way look at the body language and these two weird floating quote things they have going on in this high-tech broadcast from the Stone Age. And as was the case in many representations of these two guys running, Don Prudhomme stomped a hole in him. That happened more often than not. The Snake and Mongoose partnership wouldn't have worked with two other people. You needed the back and forth of the personalities. You needed that yin and yang, so to speak.
The classic Snake versus Mongoose battle once again. McEwen getting an easy run here, a single, as his competition, Ron Colson, crossing the center line in the previous round of competition. McEwen shutting it off early, obviously just testing the starting line.
He won't split me with you. He don't want to split the money. He's over here. He said he hasn't won a national event in about 48 hours. He's kind of down.
It should be a good race. You know, we've met many times this year, and you know, fortunately we've came out okay, but you never know. The cars can be turned. You know, Tom's liable to jump up and put us away, but we're going to be trying very hard, and I know he's going to be. So it'll be a tremendous last round.
Your guys are frantically working on the motor, yet you're over here fooling around with him.
Well, it's just going back together right now. We got plenty of time, and I'm just starting to take it a little easier instead of thrashing so much on the thing. I've been watching him, and it seems to work.
See, his biggest problem is he's not as serious a racer as I am.
The only thing that can beat a snake is a mongoose. Because you know why? Because they're quick, they're fast, they're nimble, but they're smart. They're saying the snake.
But a snake and mongoose, not the other way around.
Loser! Why'd you go find your own twister, buddy? Loser! You guys have a nice day, too. Mover!
Top Alcohol Funny Car Finals pitted Jerry Gwynn from Miami, Florida against Ace Manzo. But Gwynn, unable to make the run, gave an easy single to Frank Manzo to take home the race.
Yes, the other ace. How bizarre is it that two of the greatest funny car racers of all time end up with the same nickname? One guy from the Pacific Northwest, one guy from the eastern United States, the greater New York, New Jersey tri-state area, as some would say.
I don't know if you can call him the other ace. It's kind of disrespectful, but...
Frank Manzo out of Morganville, New Jersey, an 82 Trans Am. Runner-up in the world last year, #1 qualifier here at the Gator Nationals. He's up against Bogey Cal out of Adela, Alabama.
Frank Manzo, you're the #1 qualifier among the alcohol funny cars. Some say that's a jinx to be #1.
Well, last year I qualified #1 most of the time, and I did okay. I like being #1.
Look at this. Look at this Joker here. Joker like he on Mario Kart. Look at him. Because you know why? He's true Italian.
He used to eat a lot of pizza and spaghetti.
Looks like he was part of your family.
Yeah. Yeah, look at him. Look at that mustache.
New Jersey guy wasn't the fighter. It was the Pacific Northwest guy. The Peace and Love guy was actually the fighter out of the two aces.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Yes, it's Superman. Nichols off first.
Side by side and
Oh my God!
car. Jim Nichols' car has literally been sawed in half.
A lot of people think Nicole got this nickname from this incident, exploding the car and flying effectively away in his parachute there at the U.S. Nationals. According to Steve Gibbs, he got the nickname when he beat up like 4 guys by himself in a bar fight, and they started calling him Superman.
If I pull it out, Superman.
People don't realize that the farmer isn't just a moniker. No.
He drug people down the track like a plow.
The farmer, Beswick, races and wins class at the 55 Nationals, raced at some of the NASCAR sanctions drag races back in the day, survived horrendous fires, crashes, and really up until just recently was still racing. The Tameless Tiger, he had his Be Experimental nitro-powered Pontiac. This guy ran Pontiac engines until he no longer could. I mean, he held on to the very end running Pontiacs on nitro. The farmer, legend forever.
Drag racing is far out.
Jungle Jim comes in 4th? Is there a John Force without a Jungle Jim? Probably not.
This is another reason I wish I was around back in those times to be around Jungle Jim, because I've heard so many stories about how crazy he was and just hands-on he was. He worked on all his own stuff.
Jungle was a really talented guy too. He was a showman and he built his own car. He scratched at all his engines and looks a little bit like Matt Bynum, really, I mean, nowadays.
Look at it, look at Jungle Pam. Lord have mercy. Boy, she is fine like wine, boy. I'll give her a 10 out of 10.
Jungle Pam and Jungle Jim, Snake and Mongoose, Jungle Pam and Jungle Jim. We romanticize so much stuff in drag racing. We romanticize the Snake and Mongoose from that era, from what they brought to the table, and we romanticize Jungle Pam and Jungle Jim because it's this Camelot kind of thing. They were the king and the queen for their era of match racing, down and dirty, gritty, funny car racing. And I think one of the coolest things Jungle Pam's done over the course of her life, and especially during this era of her life in retrospect of her career, is really kind of being realistic about how gritty that era was.
Couldn't at least, change water, oil, pack a parachute, I mean, there's no reason for you to be around.
Jungle Pam's pretty popular, especially with the male crowd.
Pervert.
And let me tell you something. They were an ultimate combo because Jungle Pam got you on the start line and put you in the daze, and Jungle Jim knocked you out going down the racetrack.
The acknowledged king of the super stock drivers is a cigar-puffing, trigger-quick professional from Pennsylvania named Bill Grumpy Jenkins.
One of the big events of the day, the finals of the Pro Stock. To the winner, $13,325. There are 2 finalists. That is Don Grothier in the darker car, and the white car is Bill Jenkins, who qualified 17th. Grothier qualified 4th. The crowd is all up. This is one of the most popular events, and here we go. They're off. Looks like Jenkins got the start. Grothier's coming at him, though. It's a very close race. It could be anybody's race. Here they come to the final, and it is Bill Jenkins comes across just ahead of Don Grothier. Signing his life away there, Bill Jenkins, winner of the Pro Stock. Congratulations. Your car did hold together, right?
Yeah, bud. Guess we got lucky today. Found out a few things wrong with it and got it working.
I only met Grumpy a couple times. And the first thing somebody told me was, when you interview this guy the first time, you'll maybe understand every 3rd word. And they lied, because I understood every 8th word. And I was terrified when I was writing the story that I was going to misquote him, because his speech was an interesting mixture of grunts and other noises with an occasional word mixed in.
This is the Yule brothers and Ken Van Wert. Brother Mark Yule doing the driving against one of the best Camaros ever built. Grumpy's toy, Bill Jenkins, with Larry Lombardo at the wheel. The wheels high in the air and Lombardo pulling a quick lead over Mark Yule. And extending it.
Is there a more influential guy in early pro stock? No. Is there a guy that set pro stock into the path that it is today? Probably not. This is the guy that did it. He built these cars that are the ultimate version of reading between the rules.
It's the Grump, baby. The Grump, the man that was a small block Chevy combination legend, if you didn't know. From the Vegas to the Camaros. But you know what made the Grump so special? It was the open face helmet and the dry hops with a lit cigar in his mouth, and he was like, wow, wow. And look at him going down the track. That joker will leave on you, shift gears, and while he's going down the track, he's just there smiling and smirking with that cigar in his mouth. AKA, you just got grumpatized.
It'd be awesome if you could still smoke and drive right now, you know, like.
He takes a puff going down the track while banging gears. Like that's a man right there. And he won a lot. Oh yeah. Manhandling that thing. Take a puff. See, he's blowing smoke. Like, how bad is it? You get your ass whipped by a guy that's stogie in his mouth. And he's taking puffs going down the track, banging gears, probably looking over at you to make sure he's got you cleared. Like, there's nothing you can do about it.
Look, here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Pow! Look at that cigar. Didn't move a whistle. Look at, boom. Look at him. Boom. Did you see he's got, look out. Look how he's doing the pedal. Look out. And he's even taking a puff of the cigar talking about, I just smoked him. That's the Crump, baby. That is the Crump. Look at him. I love that man.
And yes, that is actually his size to scale. He was not a big man physically, but my God, he was a huge man behind the wheel. That's the great part about drag racing. You can take a guy who is never going to win a slam dunk contest, but you put him in a 4-speed Camaro and just get out of the way because you're going to be mincemeat by the time he's done. And yes, famous photo spread out on the bearskin rug. I will never unsee that.
Don Prudhomme's Snake. Tom McEwen's Mongoose. Dragdom's fastest duo goes from the drag strip to your home.
A very emotional moment down here. I've seen Don Prudhomme lose before, and it's usually a recluse. He gets in his truck, he leaves the racetrack immediately, talks to nobody. This is just a little bit different.
Over the years, drag racing has developed its own brand of heroes. Don the Snake Prudhomme. Mean, lean, and quick.
This is the guy that does this to people. Let me show you right here, look, hold on. Hey kid, you know, if there was more races back when I was racing, nobody would have caught my records. You lucky they only had 12 races when I was racing. That's the only reason why you passed me, kid. That's right. That's right.
My man, this dude will call probably 2 or 3 times a month. Hey man, just checking on you. How come you guys aren't running so well? Just let me know everything I'm doing wrong.
Waterbed. We're gonna get it on the side. Watch one short. A little on the side. Yeah, Snake, what's happening? Hey. Deal you in?
Anybody got change for 1,000?
What do you say about this guy? He falls on everybody's 1A, 1B list of the greatest drag racers of all time.
Here's the car that has dominated it. In fact, Don Prudhomme is already annexed the World Championship.
Just look at it, the coiled snake with the red, white, and blue on it. He's one of the few people that every single car he drove is iconic. From the Hawaiian back in the day, B&M Torquemaster Special, every funny car he had. The hair. That's how quick this man was. He was able to catch wild creatures. Is that Berserko Bob?
No, that's Don Schumacher.
That was Don Schumacher.
Yeah.
Whap! The snake's got him in his grasp. Look at him. Oh my goodness, that is Don Schumacher.
Don should go back to that look.
Everybody had their look.
Yeah, I think Don ought to go back with that old look.
They might have roasted that. If Schumacher got it, he might have looked at it, either figured out a way to sell it to somebody, or they might have eaten it for dinner that night.
Congratulations to you. You backed up the 241. You've now got the record at that, and the World Championship, the title here at this event. A great show.
Well, I got to say thank you very much, but I can't think of a finer operation in NHRA to run at a fine facility like this, like Ontario Raceway. It's probably got to be the best racetrack in the whole entire world.
Congratulations to you down, Wally Park.
That's just beautiful. I think you already know how proud we are of you. Everything that you've done here today just wrapped it all up beautiful.
Well, thank you very much, Wally. Thank you.
His relationship with Wally Parks is really interesting because you have Don Garlits, who had a very taciturn relationship with Wally Parks. It was a bad relationship, really, but the relationship that Don Prudhomme had with Wally Parks was wholly different. It was, in a way, almost fatherly. You watch Don Prudhomme win races, and when Wally would be down there at the top end, it wasn't a handshake, it was a full embrace. And usually it was before Prudhomme even got his helmet off.
I got you $1.
Oh, you almost had it. You gotta be quicker than that.
The National Hot Rod Association presents the World Championship Finals at Tulsa, Oklahoma. Here's the Parade of Champions. Jerry the King Ruth.
The King of the Northwest, Jerry the King Ruth. This dude was outspoken, bombastic, he was loud. He would tell you right to your face that he was going to beat you and he was going to make you look bad when he was doing it.
He may wear the hair off his rabbit's foot. Then you feel this thing called luck, huh? Yeah, right.
Of coming out of the northwestern part of the United States like Ace, this guy was a ruler.
And Jerry Ruth, the veteran out of Seattle, Washington, will be in the spectator side. Jerry Ruth likes to call himself the king.
Ruth will be very offended. He's an honorable mention here.
Everybody always called Kenny Bernstein the king, but AKA Jerry Ruth, I think he needs to be in the top 10. He needs to be in the top 10 because the coolest part was he was the first OG original king. He was a man from up there that came from all around. And let me tell you something, you talking about a smooth operator? He was a smooth operator. He was the king for one reason.
He's a pretty tough dude, man. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I heard he was a pretty tough man.
Back then, what was cool about drag racing was those guys, you know, I mean, nobody had social media, so they just beat each other up all the time, you know.
A lot of great racers came from underneath him.
Yeah.
He was somebody who was not going to be denied, and he loved every part of that persona. He loved being that loud guy, and certainly lived life large, so to speak.
JR the King Tom.
No, like, see, these guys had such badass nicknames. Yeah, I'd be like the peasant.
Now we go to pro stock, and it's going to be Terry Adams against Ricky Smith.
Boy, another situation where you're going after a man who's really difficult to get over.
Tricky Ricky Smith. Greatest door slammer racer of all time? Probably. Slickest door slammer racer of all time? Probably. Greatest win-at-all-cost door slammer racer of all time? Definitely.
Ricky Smith is certainly good. He and Glidden are staged, and the teammates are off.
Look at Ricky Smith. He leads the line first on Bob Glidden. Glidden starts smoking the tires. Glidden has trouble. It's going to be Ricky Smith.
Everybody knows. See, the top 10 is not enough. You need a top 20 because Tricky Ricky Smith is truly an iconic legend.
Yeah. Let's step in here with the winner, Ricky Smith, the first time in 5 races this year that this man's been beaten in the final, and you finally did it.
Thank Lord. That's all I know to say, you know.
And you know what? He used to put the okie doke on everybody on the starting line. He had you memorized. He was the first one that I can recall that perfected the okie doke and the tree game. Look at it. Look at it. Tricky Ricky. Look at the feet. Look at the feet, baby.
The Ford Thunderbird of Ricky Smith.
That's what I love right there, grabbing gears like that. He's got tennis shoes on. They didn't have to have driving shoes back then. That's awesome.
One of the most insane pieces of drag racing footage of all time. Yeah, sure, he's driving in, he's like, oh man, he's driving in jeans and sneakers. But forget about that. There's a guy sitting on the floor of this car with a camera on his shoulder. Forget Ricky Smith. How about the camera guy with that ancient camera over his shoulder?
Come on, Slick.
The Canadian car, Gordy Bonnet. 240 Gordy, known as in the drag racing circles. The reason for this, Bonnet loves to drive them fast, and over 240 miles an hour in a funny car is quite a speed.
240 Gordy, that might be less about the speed and more about the number of female companions that were in the little black book on any given Tuesday.
Gordy Bonnet has established a new national speed record here at over 245 miles an hour, a professional racer by trade, and the body is up and the shutoff sign being given to Kosti Ivanov. Something going wrong as all the work and all the effort between the rounds did not pay off, as apparently something leaking out of the car. They're shaking their heads no. The starting line crew saying, shut it off, in a single run for Gordy Bonnet, the 1979 U.S. Nationals champion.
240 Gordy Bonnet. Who else earns a nickname on performance? Thankfully for him, it rhymed with what he did. But yeah, 240 Gordy. A guy who had a great career driving for so many people, all the way up into like the 90s, I think even early 2000s, worked for NHRA for a long time. But the bubble up car that he just climbed out of, one of the coolest funny cars of all time, and certainly the one he's most known for. The late Gordy Bonnet, of course, he was the stunt driver here in the Canadian cinematic tour de force known as Fast Company. Fast Company is like a movie, only worse.
I love it. He just fired it up in the shop, drove it through the garage door. Oh, now they're going to run here at the stoplight. What was that, Spicoli?
I look like Jim Head.
You look like Bobby Buddy.
Yeah.
This scene right here with the two guys, very Canadian looking guys, by the way. If you're gonna have, we need to typecast two very Canadian looking guys. I got it. How about these two dudes? And that car, the funny car is clearly running. That's not two people behind it rocking it back and forth. Shook the tires a little there, but they'll get it on the next one. They'll make adjustments at the next stoplight.
That's awesome. Yeah, it kind of looks like some of our hot track runs right there.
He continued going to the drags as a crew member with Peters and Frank and watched other drivers such as Mickey Thompson, Craig Breedlove, and Bill Alexander struggle to get the big twin down the track. Finally, in December 1962, Bob had seen enough and climbed back in the Lions, breaking the top gas record by 4 miles an hour. Bob went to drag news and track officials, warning them that the only way this would work was never to use his name.
The photo crews get set to shoot the big one. Top gas eliminator. Again, it's Peters versus Kalita. And once more, John Peters slips past Connie Kalita's bounty hunter with a winning ET of 8.82 seconds at 178.21 miles per hour. John Peters, Mr. Eliminator of the 19...
Lippencott Jr. I think personally the greatest nickname of all time because it was done to protect his identity from his dad. Bob Moravez's father hated the fact he drag raced, and his dad had a successful business, I believe, in the appliance industry. And so in order for Bob to be able to drive, they had to hide his identity. And it was Steve Gibbs gave him this name, effectively, I believe, looking around a room one day at like titles of books and some other thing.
Later that year, Pete Robinson challenged Peters and Frank for the Drag News #1 gas spot at San Gabriel Dragway. As the cars pushed down, announcer Mel Reck started to introduce the drivers and caught himself. A young Drag News reporter named Steve Gibbs was in the tower and remembered he had a college textbook by Lippencott. That seemed innocuous enough, and between the two of them, they came up with the rest, and Floyd J. Lippencott Jr. was born.
The neatest thing about Moravez, he drove the freight train. He was like the only guy, Goob Tuller and other people drove the freight train, but nobody drove it like Bob Moravez did. He tamed it, and he made that thing into the most legendary top gas dragster of his era. When they would win national events, which there weren't many in those days, a lot of companies like Valvoline and others would do promotional photos of all the people that won winning using their product. If you look back in old hot rod magazines, he would appear with his face mask on and with Floyd Lippencott Jr. Like next to him would be like Dyno Don Nicholson smiling with his Buddy Holly glasses, and then it would be Bob Moravez with his face mask on.
At the race at Irwindale Drag Strip that Greg talked about, Steve Gibbs and Mel Reck came up with the name of Floyd Lippencott Jr., and it stuck. That's when Floyd was born. Floyd was a really good driver, let me tell you. He won many races plus 6 national events. I've only won 3. In fact, NHRA liked him so much they gave him his own official unlimited driver's license. Can you imagine that?
How bad to the bone do you have to be for NHRA to give you your own license with a fake ID so they wouldn't know you were drag racing because you were such a bad to the bone racer?
And it's a bittersweet story because ultimately that drag racing conflict he had with his family kind of drove them apart. But the fact that he was able to do it and the entire drag racing world kind of circled the wagons around him and knew that it was so important that his identity remained hidden, pretty phenomenal, and it speaks to that era.
You gonna let somebody else take credit for your win?
I mean, yeah, that's tough. I could kind of pull that off being, you know, Mario or JR, I suppose.
He loved drag racing so much that he let Elias name take all his credit, even in the record books. So when you look up in the record books and you look down and deep and you see Floyd J. Lippencott Jr., not senior, junior, and it's not really him. Isn't that crazy? That's beyond that blows my mind. It blows my mind right now, still to the day. But you know what that's called? That's called love. NHRA drag racing love.
All right, numero uno.
There's no doubt who number one's gonna be.
Here we go. I know what number one is. I ain't even gotta roll the tape. Nobody's gotta roll the tape. You should know what number one is.
He's the number one.
He's just the man to beat.
He's a superior.
Don Garlits. Big Daddy. Garlits.
He's it.
He's Big Daddy.
Was there any doubt? Should there have been any doubt? Could there have been any doubt? Absolutely not. Greatest drag racer of all time, greatest nickname of all time. Where did it come from? My understanding is the nickname came from the fact that when he began traveling with his daughters, one of the announcers, I believe it was out west, I'm not sure if it was Mel Rec or if it was somebody of that era that started calling him Big Daddy when they started walking around the racetrack with his kids, and how does it not stick? And of course it got twisted back in the day when he was Tampa Don, when all the West Coast guys hated him, they called him Don Garbage. He would go out west and instead of calling him Don Garlits, they called him Don Garbage, but the Big Daddy name stuck.
Everything we explained about everybody else is in one guy. Intensity, toughness, very smart, hard racer.
He was definitely an innovator.
It would appear, Steve, that Garlits will have a free run at Top Fuel Eliminator.
What a shame. After the sensational racing we've had, Larry Bowers and Kenny Safford not able to make the call.
You know that you special, and you know that you are the Big Daddy. If Buster Couch, the starter, runs out and pushes your car back.
If he didn't get his toes chopped off, we'd probably still run front engine dragsters.
Tell you what, I've seen him here recently, and I don't think I talked to him. He probably still will.
Oh yeah, he looks good, man. He's in his 80s, right?
Yeah, good.
Looks good.
We saw this sprint car in the window of this machine shop. I'm still in school. I don't know nothing about cars yet. I mean, I know where to put the oil and stuff. So we spun around, went in there and looked at this machine. It was a big sprint car, no roll cage, no seat belts. And I made the comment, it might be dangerous driving something like this. And the old man that actually drove it laid his tools down and he come straight over there to me. He said, "Sonny, if you look at this race car and you see anything about it that scares you, you should go straight home to your mommy, because men drive these cars and we're not afraid of anything."
Who's your daddy? Don Garlits is your daddy. He's Big Daddy. Because you know why? Everything he did was big.
This would not be the number one nickname if he was not the greatest drag racer of all time. If they call you Big Daddy Don Garlits and you have a 6-year career and win one event, nobody remembers you. If they call you Big Daddy Don Garlits and you revolutionize the sport and then continue to beat people's brains in for decades after the fact, it sticks.